Hello, dear audience. My name is Anastasia, and today, in the Word of Icebreakers channel, I'm going to moderate the event Entrepreneurship Without Risk Mission Impossible. Today, we have three speakers and three topics. So, we choose to talk about this topic because every failure can be obtained if we know all the risk in advance. So, it's very hard to manage something without any mistakes. And we want to raise this topic up exactly today. So, as I mentioned, we have three topics. The first one is going to be the philosophy of taking risks: when, why, and how. The second one is the risk of starting, leading, and maintaining the startup. And the last one will be from failure to success in business. I hope you enjoy your time with us and enjoy our speakers as well. So, yes, hello.
Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I will go and quickly introduce you to the audience. So the first speaker is Diana Mardarovici. She is a business development consultant in Romania. She is very experienced in sales, marketing, and international development plans. She has a big range of clients, from small cafes to large real estate holders. Diana is going to introduce you to the topic, the philosophy of taking risks: when, why, and how. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Anastasia. Thank you for having me here, and it's a pleasure to talk to the live viewers as well as your future viewers. I'm going to talk to you today about a topic that is a favorite of mine, and that is taking risk. When, how, and why you should do it. Well, let me tell you, after this, there will be no great answers because all of you will have to figure out those answers for yourself. What I will do today is try to give you the tools that you need to know what your answers are in the future. I will start my presentation. Anastasia, if you can help me with the share screen. I will start my presentation with talking about risk in general. What is your definition of risk? And of course, most of you are quite young and think of that. And I was at the age of thinking that I am unbeatable. I am absolutely 100% brave, and I'm 100% courageous and willing to take on the world. Mostly when I talk to people, I talk from my own experience. I have not lived anybody else's life, so I couldn't share with you thoughts that others have. But I have, in my mind, I want to tell you something more about, besides the things that you can see on screen. So, you know about the millennial generation, and that's one generation before you guys. We were much talked about, and I'm sure you are also discussed about your pros and cons. And it was a very interesting time because people were talking about us like we are some kind of aliens. And when people were describing the type of usual typical millennial, I understood that I fit the bill perfectly because you see, from childhood, I was a little bit different, sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way. I was a risk taker. I was always willing to change how things are done. I was always willing to take the unbeaten path, and I was literally lacking fear, which is not necessarily a good thing because that has led me in quite an adventuresome journey throughout my years to now. So let me talk to you a little bit about how life looks like, how you think life will be when you're 20. So what you're taught in school mostly about is that there are decisions that you make in life. So there are some good decisions and some clearly bad decisions. And the right way to do is just to make the good decisions, and this will lead you to your goal, whatever that goal may be, right? Well, life isn't that way. in reality, we don't know most of the time what the good decisions are. It's rarely black and white, and it's something that you learn through experience. I was talking earlier to the presenter, to Anastasia, and I was telling her that actually, statistically, most startup entrepreneurs that are successful are around 40 years of age. Now, you have to consider why that is. Most of those people have made a lot of bad decisions that they thought were good at the time. The reality is that life, whether it is in entrepreneurship or life in general, is a series of choices. And you should first get out of the thinking that there is a perfectly good choice and a perfectly bad choice. So there is no such thing as making sure there is a path of least resistance, a path that is absolutely zero risk, and then there's this road fraught with danger where vultures going to come at you all the time. It's not true. Whatever choices you make in life, and even if somebody considers, having a career, being a dentist, for example, is a safe choice, not necessarily. You will go through ups and downs in your life, no matter what choice you make. So you just have to realize, what is the kind of lifestyle that I am willing to live with? What kind of sacrifices I'm willing to make, and what kind of risk I'm willing to take. Now, to talk about a little bit more about risk. So the most common risks that you will hear about are the financial risks, and that is money-wise. The reputational risks, that is more and more important, and it really, really matters what culture you come from, because depending on the country that you grow up in, failure is treated very differently, and reputational risks in Eastern Europe especially are very highly rated as the things that people are most afraid about. So that's the classic, what are people going to say about me? Then the security risk. The security is the risk of safety, not necessarily financial, but safety of acceptance. And then we are talking about health. You have to understand, no matter your choices, well, some choices are better than others, but there is a health risk. And one of the most important health risks that you're taking if you're embarking on an entrepreneurial journey is your mental health risk that you have to take seriously. And I know you guys, maybe some of you think this can never happen to me. Burnout is not a thing, or depression is not a thing, but things happen. Now, life is not a journey. It's not it's not a sprint. It's not something that, you go at for intensely for 3 years and then magic happens. Life is a very long road, and you have to keep in mind that the most important thing, and I know I sound like our grandparents, but it is reality. Whatever the most important thing that will get you through life and be successful at it, whatever that means, is making sure you are healthy from all perspectives. Another thing is the operational risk, and we're going to discuss a little bit about that, and the competition risk. So let's take things one at a time. The financial risk. Now, I'm assuming not all of you are multimillionaires, because I don't think that Bill Gates' daughter would be watching this as she has the best mentorship around. But if you guys are like me, where you're not necessarily from less fortunate families, but from average families with, some money, but not necessarily venture capitalist money, then you will understand that there's something that's very, very important. And money, finances, will also buy you other things, such as security and health. And the question is, how much are you willing to sacrifice? There's one advice that I will give you. There's one mistake that I made. Now, in the long run, thinking about it, it was such a stupid thing to do, and I fully realize it, but I really want to share so that you guys don't do it. Don't take loans. Do not take personal loans. And when I mean personal loans is do not take loans to buy a TV, do not take loans to go on a vacation, and do not get credit card loans. The worst thing that can happen to an entrepreneur is for that entrepreneur to lose their freedom. When you have a mortgage and a car that you're paying, and don't get expensive cars. If you buy things that you cannot afford, and even if your business is doing well, a pandemic may happen, a financial crisis may happen. You might not be able for a while to make the money that you're making. And under those circumstances, the last thing you want is worrying about defaulting on your mortgage, worrying about the bank taking your car, or any of those things. I want to clarify something. I'm not referring to not buying things that you need for your business from a loan. That makes complete sense. That is a type of risk that you're taking as maybe a freelancer or an entrepreneur, and going into debt for the company and make sure that's on the company as well makes complete sense as long as you calculate your risk. So, for example, buying a very good laptop makes complete sense. Buying a car you cannot afford, no, do not do that. Make sure that whatever business you will create will inherit your pluses and your minuses. So if you know yourself to be financially maybe a little bit unbalanced or not very cautious, as I am, because I am that person. I am a person that took out 3 credit cards right before the financial crisis, and it was more than I can afford. You have to understand, it's really important to understand that your business will inherit all your defects. So make sure pretty early on, especially in finances, make sure you get a good accountant and maybe a legal advisor. And I know it might cost a lot. Choose a platform, choose some type of, fee that is affordable to you. But I cannot stress enough how important it is to recognize your own faults. And if you know yourself to be maybe a little bit financially too risky, too much willing to take risks, make sure you get an advisor. That's actually the number one advice that I can give you. When you know, and knowing yourself is very important, and being honest with yourselves. When you know that you have not a fault, but maybe something that you're not very good at, make sure you access either mentors or financial advisors or a professional that will help you, or maybe even within a team that will help you with that side of the business. Make sure you do that early on, because that will keep you from further going into a situation where you can no longer take risks and you have to give up entrepreneurship. There's one thing to tell you about entrepreneurship, and I have a friend that said, and he made this smartwatch that he sold to Facebook for millions. And he said, at one point I had 37 companies. I opened 37 companies, and one was this one, and the other 36 were lessons. So you have to keep in mind there's a very high chance, and that's okay, that it won't work out, right from the start. Your first business setup might not be the one that is the most successful. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't give it your best from your engagement point of view, but make sure when you see this business losing money, so let's say 6 months, a year. And unless it's like a tech startup that you're looking for crowdfunding in the future and you're still working on your prototype, that makes sense. But if it's something that should have worked by now and this great thing is just not happening, make sure you know when to say enough. Because if you let it go into your money, you start borrowing from friends and family, because that's what happens, friends and families. What will happen is that you will not have money to start over. And that is actually an advice that I gave a lot of my clients that are in the restaurant and cafe business during this time. I told them that if the times were so uncertain, that I advised all of them to cut their rent, to close their business, so that they have some money left aside to start up again when things are getting, better and more predictable, rather than let this bleed money and not being able to start over. Another risk that I wanted to talk to you about is the reputational risk. Now, I know social media is big, and I know at a certain age it's all about, what people around you think, and for some people they never get over this. But let me tell you a secret. Nobody cares. On the long run, nobody cares. So if you are afraid of putting yourself out there, reputationally, of putting yourself forward with your new product or your new business idea, and you're thinking, there are so many people around me that will say, look at this girl or look at this guy. Don't think about it. That is irrelevant. And actually, reputationally, when you put yourself out there and when you take your chance, that's when you'll know who your real friends are. That's when you'll know that your real, true friends or family will support you through your most foolish journeys and your wildest, mistakes sometimes, but it's worth it. And, at the end of the day, you guys, it's very unlikely that when this journey of ours is over, because this is a journey of life in general, not only entrepreneurship, it's very unlikely that you will regret the things that you have done. Most likely, for most people, you will regret the things that you haven't done. So if you have a secret book, if you have a secret idea, if you have a secret dream, just put it out there. Trust me, even if the market says no, your idea doesn't work, it will give you the strength to try again. You just have to put it out there. You know where the most greatest, best ideas are in the world? In a cemetery. Just because people never actually took the chance to make it something. What we can talk about managing risk. So in general, I defined risk. Now I want to talk to you about how you should, it's called risk management, and how you should handle it. So risk management basically is something that very big corporations do. Unfortunately, we don't do enough on a personal level, but it's about trying to clearly identify what the risks are, to analyze the likelihood of that risk, to decide today for those scenarios happening, what you're going to do, what action you will take, and then to monitor if that risk has a chance of happening, to monitor the action to see if you can adapt it, and then to control the risk. Now that sounds very good in theory. In practice, because you're not large corporations yet, what will happen is that you will get a lot of gut feelings. And those gut feelings you should always listen to. That's a little bit of an inner voice. Also, please try, and that's something that I'm also working on, put your gut feelings onto paper. So if you have a gut feeling about something going wrong, try to identify clearly in your mind what you're worried about. Are you worried about the client not paying in time? Are you worried about somebody, is it a reputational risk? What are exactly? Try to give names to the things that stress you out. It's very important to clarify those things to you, to yourselves, because once you do that, you will be able to manage also your mental health and your reactions to it. I'm not going to go into the details of risk management. What you can do is Google. There are a lot of techniques about it. Now, how to assess risks correctly? Do a SWOT. SWOTs always work. Even things that you think are subjective. So, for example, I always have a gut feeling about people. So if you feel like a client or a partner or a supplier or whoever is not being truthful with you, that should go on SWOT. That's a genuine, real risk. Because do not ignore your gut instincts, because most of the time you will be right. So if you try to put that in a SWOT, don't over rationalize things, because there are things that cannot be rationalized. You know what? I was working with a big company, and they were assessing risk of hyperinflation on all these crazy scenarios that they were preparing their business for. And guess what happened in March? A scenario nobody ever thought about. When you're in the beginning of your business, you have to be agile and adapt. So don't overthink risks, because you will become risk adverse. And, at the end of the day, you can walk out the door tomorrow and just die. So don't overthink it way too much. Ask friends and family that you trust for advice when assessing risk, and even go to the person that you know is the most risk adverse, like the teacher in your family that completely doesn't understand entrepreneurship, and try to get their take on it. Try to accept, to open your mind and actually listen, because they might give you some insight that you weren't aware of. Not necessarily that they will convince you not to do something or to do it differently, but it's very important to listen to people, genuinely listen to people, especially if we're talking about people that care for you. And always be honest to at least one person in your life, and that is yourself. So if anything happens, if you are starting to feel bad, if anything, or have a gut feeling about something, or you have to be honest with what you want, what you think, and what you feel, because a business, especially a startup, is very dependent on you. So if you are suppressing any type of stress or emotion, it will come and bite you. So try to be honest with yourself about the risks that you're taking. Look at them. I tried doing this. I tried ignoring the debt that I had. You can't escape it. You have to just look at it in the face, and it's okay for every once in a while to take a step back and say, this business has failed. I will find a job for 2-3 years to get myself out of debt, and then I will try again. And that is the most sane and mature decision that you can take, because remember, most successful startups are at 40, so you have time. So remember the tree we were talking about in the beginning of this. Actually, this is a single day in the life of an entrepreneur, especially a startup entrepreneur. There are these people will tell you that, if you make a business plan, or if you assess risk, or you think of everything. What life has taught me, and I have seen a lot of success in people and a lot of failure as well, is that failure and success come together. So you will have success and then failure, or the other way around. What matters truly is to move on mentally, emotionally. The people that have trouble with this is that the people that get hung up in a certain moment of their life, either it was a success or a failure, and that cannot move on. The key to being a successful entrepreneur is to take things as they are and move on. Move on and keep on putting one foot in front of the other, thinking is overrated because it's a little bit of procrastination, and I do that sometimes. I'll think of an idea to the smallest detail and then never actually act on it. So if you give yourself time, for example, I'll think about this for 3 days, and then what I think about in 3 days, that's when I'm going to do. Action is more important in entrepreneurship than overthinking. There is no perfect business plan. There's no perfect business. You will manage just fine. You will try your best, and you'll see what happens. Listen, sometimes everything will be against you. I mean, this pandemic has taught us that the best, economists in the world, even if this has happened before, and some people have said that there is the possibility of this happening again, nobody really knew when a pandemic was coming and how it was going to affect us. So you have to keep this in mind. No matter what happens, if a risk you took didn't pay off, at the end of the day, if you're in that bad place, just keep going. Maybe, you're not going to run, you're going to crawl for a while, but that's important too. That is still moving forward. I know that sounds like a cliche, but to tell you the truth, that looking back on all my trials and error and successes and failures, that's what made me different from others. I just kept moving forward at my own pace. And at one point, I even said to somebody, you know what? I know it's not about the money, because this is one thing I want to tell you guys. Entrepreneurship in reality is not about the money. So you're going to make a lot of money this day, then you're going to lose a lot of money. So you have, for example, I am very capable of adapting my lifestyle from, going into gorgeous beaches in Miami, which I have done, to, having literally cooking for myself and making sure I live on 10 euros per day because I can't afford more. You have, as an entrepreneur, you have to be able to adapt. And that affects families a lot. And when you will have a family that depends on you, for example, children, your risk-taking will subside. Your willingness to take risks will subside. That is why it's very important when you choose a partner, and that is the most important risk you will take in life. When you choose a life partner, make sure they see the crazy in you. Make sure they see your dreams and that they're on board with this, because sometimes in difficult times, they will need to take care of that part of it. And I'm not saying your life partner couldn't also be an entrepreneur, but it's easier if at least one person has a steady job, especially if you have children. The best way to actually manage risk in your life in general and in your business is to know who you are. And I know a lot of you learn about the mission, vision, and values of your companies, the companies that you're building. The first step that you should take, in my opinion, is make sure you answer the why, how, and what of you personally, because that will greatly increase the chances of you understanding in all these choices that life presents you, all these opportunities, which opportunity is yours in, aligned with who you are as a person, and which is not, and will help you actually be at peace with both your choices, all the risk you took, and the reality of failure. So it's very important. And there are a lot of tools online. If you need any help, you can also contact me. There are a lot of ways to actually define and get to that level of being honest about yourselves. And all those things can change in time, but they're pretty stable. So make sure you understand yourselves before you try to build something else. A thought I want to leave you with is that overall, what makes us brave, what makes us courageous, what makes people outstanding, or historic or great entrepreneurs is not the lack of fear. It is actually, because if you're not afraid, that's not courage. It's actually being able, feeling that fear and overcoming it, acting in spite of that fear. It's okay to be afraid. That's a survival mechanism. But learning and moving on past the fear will enable you in the future to expand your life. Because I completely agree with this statement, life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. Thank you so much for your time. And I really hope maybe if you see this live, and I'm going to exit this presentation, Anastasia, if you can stop the slide sharing. And I really hope that this was in any way helpful to you. Please contact me on Facebook. You can find me by my name on LinkedIn. And if you feel like you need some advice, or if you're having a day that seems a little bit overwhelming, you can write to me and maybe we can figure out things together. Most of all, just be yourselves, because everybody else is taken. So thank you so much.
Hey, Diana, thank you very much for such insightful presentation. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really glad that you were able to join, because you didn't mention it's your birthday today. So I'm going to say one more time, happy birthday, and thank you so much for your time. Now we are going to prepare for the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, Juha, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hi, Anastasia. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. I can hear you too, so everything is great. So I'm going to introduce you to our public. So our next speaker is Juha Stenberg. He is CEO and co-founder at eMabler. I'm sorry if I pronounced it in the
Close enough. eMabler. eMabler.
eMabler. Okay, thank you very much. This company makes charging electric bicycles more convenient and economical for the end users. So I am going to give stage for you to tell more about the risks of starting, leading, and maintaining a startup. So are you going to use any kind of presentation? So
yes, I will put on my screen share, okay?
Yes, yes. We need to put there like small bottom share.
Yeah, I think it will.
Okay, I can see. I will add it right now. Yes, and I want to remind you quickly that your stage is for next 30 minutes. So I am right here. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. So my name is Juha Stenberg. I'm currently the CEO and co-founder for eMabler, and we are in e-mobility, so electric vehicle charging, doing a e-mobility platform for e-mobility ecosystem. But today, actually, I will be talking about starting, leading, and maintaining a startup. So in general, not about our business today. Some words about myself. I'm Finnish nationality. I lived in a couple different countries. I have both technical and commercial education, and I have been about a little bit over 10 years as a CEO in different startups. Common thing with these startups is that they all have had external investors, so venture capital investors in the field of consumer service, SaaS platform, both international and local businesses. On the right hand side, you can see kind of like my work path, how it has progressed. So I started at Ericsson. So the companies on the left are corporate, as we call, and then the companies on the right are the startups. So I've been going by one side to another, basically. And as Diana was saying, that it's always, you come in your life these crossroads when you need to make decisions. I can say that some of the decisions I have made are coincidence. I have felt good at that point. Maybe afterwards I have maybe done different decisions, but I mean, that's life. That's how you learn things. And so about running a startup, and a little bit referring to what Diana was saying before, is that I also agree, this is the question, why? What motivates you? Why do you want to start your own company, no matter what industry, what are the ambitions? My personal feeling is that money is a bad motivation, because, to be honest, if you look at the statistics, the startups, it involves high risk of failure, long hours, low pay. So sometimes economically there are more risks in running the startups than, for example, working for corporates. I think the motivation needs to be something deeper. It needs to be maybe involve the industry you are in, or the service you are doing. You really are interested in that, and you see the opportunity that you can offer something for that industry, and that drives you. Also, running your own business, be in charge, in good and bad, of the decision the company makes. I think it's also a good motivation. But I think everyone, when thinking about the business idea and starting a company, it's a very important to focus on this thing, because is it your SWOT, or how do you want to do? But understand yourself, and then move on. And then the next step is that I have been involved 3 times founding a startup, and I can say that the question how to start is one topic, because it's also a personal character. I feel that I'm quite analytic. I like to study things. I might like to make different projections, collect more information. But at some point, you are in the situation that you don't know everything, but you need to move on. You need to jump into the pool and start the business, and then you will discover additional information. Because if you just collect the information. First of all, your information gets old, and sometimes the window of opportunity might also be time dependent. So someone else will start the business. Then I think the one of the key decisions to make also is that, are you starting your business alone, or do you have a co-founders? Personally, I have always been in the situation that I have had co-founders, so I cannot really say about the alone thing. So with the co-founders, those are the most important people in your business. When the company grows, the importance is maybe a little bit less, but of course in the beginning, the co-founders are really important. And it basically means that you need to get along with the people. You need to share the motivation, the vision. You need to be aligned with these people. I also think that the co-founders don't need to be best friends. They don't need to be on a private level. Of course, I mean, they will be friends and learn each other, but it doesn't mean that you need to clone yourself, and your co-founders are like a mirror, reflecting the same things as you, same competence. Actually, I think it's good if the co-founder has a little bit different skill set, competence set, maybe some different motivation, because that complements then the startup. And but then of course there are also many successful cases where the person has started alone. So but that's one important topic. Okay, Diana was talking about the risk, and simply my advice is learn to cope with it, because there are risks. And as she was talking about, you have the financial risk, you have the risk of what are my friends saying if I'm failing. There are many type of things, and that's why the motivation, knowing yourself, it's a very important, because then it's kind of like easier to cope with the risk. But there's always running a startup or company, there are risks involved, and you need to learn to cope with those. Then a little bit about the workload. A little bit depending on your role. I have been always the CEO of the company, and of course also in the corporate, the CEO is the person who normally makes the final decisions, or at least carries the responsibility for those. And then in the startups, where the teams normally are quite small, you kind of like think that in the optimum world you have these microcells and everyone will make the decision by themselves and know the vision, know the strategy and all that, and you just you guide the ship. My experience is that in the startups, the CEO is involved actually in quite many different type of processes and roles and functions in the company, and also needs to make decisions for such decisions. And that's why I like the idea of running a company with the co-founder, because then you can share some of these decisions and workload with the co-founder, because very like with the co-founder, you have ownership from the company. You have been there from the beginning. You know all the different things that are on the table and so on. But of course, I mean the workload definitely is I would say much higher in a startup. Of course, you have your passion in it. It doesn't feel that you are working that much, but if just comparing let it be the hours or the days per year, normally I would say that in a startup you are working more. Of course, now people talk more about combining work and life balance, how to balance these two things. But of course, when things need to be done, then that's the situation. Then I would say that the first task you need to make as a founder and a co-founder is to understand the market and your product, and also understand what is the product market fit, because kind of like at least when I have started my company, first you think that there's a big opportunity, and we have a perfect solution to cover that opportunity. However, when you are starting, you probably need to a little bit scale down and start with something. Is it a smaller market? Is it a segment or something like to start with something and focus your effort on that and succeed in that first, and then you can start to think about expanding to different segments or introducing new features to your product or new geographical areas. But it's I would say that it's a very important right in the beginning, kind of like aim to the situation that what you are delivering will start to deliver also revenue, for example, or customers, or the product is used. Because if the planning phase is really long, it will get more complicated, both for yourself, for your co-founder, and the teams and potential customers. So that's I think is the most important task for the founders. When enrolling or agreeing that I will join this session, I did a short LinkedIn poll. You can do this poll with your contacts, and I have fairly large contact base in LinkedIn, and I had this introduction. Okay, hey, co-founders and founders, what do you think? What is the most important thing when you are starting a startup? And then people can vote. And I proposed 4 different topics. Select co-founders carefully, ensure funding, so you have financial capabilities, ensure the product market fit, or find right mentors. And then these are the results that my network. I did scan through the respondents. Not all of them are working currently at a startup, but yeah, it represents quite well, I would say, this response also on my thinking. However, I would maybe add that you normally are selecting a it's kind of like ping pong when you are planning a business idea. So you are talking with the co-founders. I have been in the cases that they're happy. For example, let's say there are four people talking about starting a company, and you're planning this product market fit and business models and how to start and things like that. And then some people don't start. They don't jump on board, so to say. They stay with their existing job. Maybe the risk is too high. Maybe the motivation is not, the heart is not in the case. But I think these are the kind of like ping pong. So you are working with your co-founders, and then the most important task is to ensure you have product market fit. I'm surprised that this ensure funding is so low. I would have expected that people would rate that higher. Because of course, depending on the businesses, some businesses you can start, let's say, service business, and if you are, let's say, doing consultant, you have some competence and you can start your consulting. You very likely the capital you need to start that business is less. Currently, for example, we are building a SaaS, offering a SaaS platform. So there is a development phase. You need to build the platform until you even get the first product release out. So that requires funding. Funding it's a interesting topic, and we could just spend the whole session talking about that, because it's kind of like you need the money in order to make the product, in order to get customers. But then when you talk with the investors, they always ask, okay, do you already have customers? And then you are like trying to say, well, actually I need the money investment in order to make the products, and then I will get the customers. So it's a balance how to do that topic. And so fundraising, of course, like I said, a little bit depending on the industry, but it's do you need to answer yourself, are you first of all needing money? Are you fundraising? Because fundraising normally means that you're giving out some of your ownership from the company, and also some strategic decisions are not anymore made solely by you, but the investors might want to have certain rights and vetoes on certain terms. So when are you funding? And then I would say that in this funding topic, you also need to have a longer term plan, kind of like, because they are normally like funding rounds, that there's a seed round and maybe follow up on seed, series A, B, growth, there are several different names. So to understand that when is the right time to do the funding round and with whom. Normally the first investors are accepting a higher risk, but also the money they are willing to put in is is less. And then there's a saying that, you think, why do I have this picture? It's saying that, it's the jockey, the horse, and the track. So the track is the market, horse is the product, and jockey is the team or the founders. And investors normally say that they are investing in the jockey. So the teams are very important in this. Then one thing raised up, because also you need to be kind of like prepared and understand that if they are co-founders, they also have their heart and mind in this 100%. And then you need to handle their dynamics, so to say. There will be conflicts, that's part of the thing, but you need to learn and maybe also agree how do you solve this, because your conflicts needs to be resolved fast and early, and it cannot be on the way for the company's success. So learn that, the rules of the game. Conflicts actually are very good, because then it means that you need to dig into the topic and really analyze which way to go. But it cannot be so that, for example, if one has 40% shares and the other one has 50% shares, for example, then it's always that. But that's not the way, because it will, of course, kill the motivation of the other owners and co-founders. Then I was talking about assuming you are a CEO. The CEO normally has the highest responsibility. He or she is the goalkeeper. So you kind of like want to build a team that will take as big role as possible in the organization. But then at the end of the day, you are the one as a CEO that has the responsibility. And that's also some risk and stress you need to understand and also to cope with. Okay. The picture, it's a long road, of course, and consistency and perseverance will take you there, but then some other topics. If you when you start to hire always people that are better for the task than you are. What I mean is that, let's say, as a co-founder, you might be doing the sales first, you might be doing some of the product management type of things, you might be doing marketing things, might be doing administration things, communications, there are many things. So once you start to hire, you hire people that are better than you. Otherwise, you're just destroying your mind, because then you start to also follow up and do those things, and that kills the motivation. So always hire better people than you are for that. Then the other thing is that if you are hiring, and if the work chemistry, which is very important in the startups, that people get along, but also if let's say the targets are not met, you need to react fast, because and unfortunately, even if you do react fast, you're probably a little bit late on reacting, because sorry to it sounds brutal, but underperformance is not for the startups. It doesn't need to be brutal way of handling things. I personally think it needs to be open with the person, so the targets, he or she knows the targets, and they are follow up. You do the corrective actions and mentoring and things like that. But in a smaller team, everyone needs to take their share of the work. And then about the company strategy. you need to communicate about the strategy. It's not enough you do it once. You need to repeat and repeat and repeat so that everyone understands why do we exist, why we are doing this, what is our competitive advantage, what is our market, what is our sustainable competitive advantage, what are the competitors doing, what is the market, where it's heading, and things like that. You just need to repeat and repeat that several times, and it also will evolve. Then if you are having a co-founder, I would recommend definitely have a shareholders agreement. So it's the legal document that agrees how certain things in the company ownership and administration are handled. For example, it's not uncommon that a co-founder after year or 2 or 3 might want to leave the company. Then the shareholder agreement is in place for those situations that you know that what happens to the shares, is she or he able to keep them, keep part of them, what is the purchase price, and things like that. There are many things, but make sure you have the shareholder agreement. Numbers don't lie. What by that I mean, follow your financial numbers. I mean, at the early stage, you have really a big scale of what will be our turnover in 1 year or in 6 months. Follow your numbers, follow your burn rate, how much you are using money, how much you have capital, what is your runway, so how much you have money until you need to do, for example, a funding round. Know your numbers. They will change, especially at the beginning. There is a big change. Follow them. Be paranoid optimistic. By that I mean the paranoid means that prepare for the worst. So you always need to think that, okay, this could go wrong. We might lose this customer or whatever. Kind of like prepare for things that, okay, what if? So you kind of like have the things at least on some level sorted out. But then you need to be optimistic. You are not a startup entrepreneur if you are not optimistic. So see the opportunities and be brave to pursue those opportunities. So both. That's why paranoid optimistic. Then take care of your most important asset, and that was also mentioned by Diana. It's yourself. I mean, and it means both your body and your mind. Body can mean that, for example, personally I think this sleep is very important. You need to be able to rest, sleep, have some at least a couple of days now and then vacation, because if you burn out yourself, then the whole company is at risk. So learn to follow yourself. How do you cope with different situations? How you handle them? Because then if you burn out, that will be a catastrophic for the whole team and for the whole company. And then mentor with other founders. I would say that only another founder or co-founder knows what kind of things you are going through. How is it to be a founder? And I have noticed that the other entrepreneurs, founders, co-founders, they're really happy to talk with other people in the similar situation. And some of their mentoring can be very experienced and give you good advice, because for some questions there is no right answer. Things might change, but it's kind of like I think it helps you to understand that, okay, some of the challenges you are facing or difficult choices you are facing, actually most of the other founders have faced the same things, and talk with them. And then accept failing. it's part of the game. I think the most important thing when running a startup is that you are learning things from yourself. You are able to test your kind of like limits, and failing is part of the game. It's not so simple that you always make the right choices. It's also important that you learn quickly to notice that, okay, that was a wrong decision, and then make corrective actions on those. And then I would say it's not all about the risks. So being a self-employed, being a freelancer, startup founder in that business, you can learn. First of all, you learn quite a lot. You have the feeling that you are kind of like in control of your business life. Of course, there are different things, but it's the journey. I would say it's more important than the end result. So that's why I'm saying that the money is not a great motivation for starting a startup, but it's the journey. Of course, all the startup entrepreneurs are targeting to be big in market share, big in valuation, maybe some exits, and so on. Of course, everyone is targeting on those things, but those alone are not enough. I wish you good luck with your journeys. Thank you.
Hello one more time. Thank you very much for this great speech. And I really enjoyed the part of LinkedIn poll, and I was very curious about the workload, because this is personally my problem I'm handling every day. I don't know how to divide it. So thank you very much. And I want to say that we are getting prepared for our next speaker. Thank you, Juha.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hello, Reinis. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well. And me?
Yes, I can hear you more or less. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I will present you to the public very quickly, and then I will give you the stage. So our last speaker of our event is Reinis Tocelovskis. At the moment, he is a founder and co-owner at 3 companies, and one of them is a startup called My 3D Cloud. I'm happy to inform that he's going to talk about the topic from failure to success in business. Reinis, please let me know if you're going to use any visuals, so I will share with them.
No.
No, okay.
Just by myself.
Okay, I'm giving stage to yours. Thank you.
So, hello guys, I'm really happy to be here, and as was mentioned, I am a co-founder and of 3 tech companies. But I started my career, my professional career as a special operation manager and political consultant, helping democratic processes in more than 15 countries. But after coming back from Afghanistan in 2014, my wife got pregnant and she asked me to stay in one place for a while. So we decided that I will switch focus to the business. And I started to run a 3D laser scanning and 3D modeling service company. And, first of all, I want to say that this is a really pleasure for me to be here today, and it is a big honor to speak with you. And I want to say that if my example will make some of you to determine your path, to determine your way in life, I will be really very happy if you can learn from my experience. But make no mistake, I'm not perfect. I'm still learning every day and developing myself all the time. So some things you can agree with, some things maybe you will not agree with. That's up to you. Whatever it is you can take away from today's meeting, I'll be happy. And well, I was thinking how and what I can share with you today, guys. And there are so many things I can speak about and from my experience, but then I thought that, well, there is one single thing, well, one basic concept that is the base for every success. And it took me a while to understand that basic principle. But I'm happy to share this thing with you today. And I think deeply understanding this concept is complete base for any success, whatever you decide to do. And this is a formula of existence. Very simple formula of existence discovered by Aristotle more than 300 years ago, before Jesus Christ, and after that developed by different philosophers after him. I think this is the basis for anyone to achieve their dreams if you understand this concept very deeply. And today I will explore this concept in a details. So, formula of existence helped me to change the way I think, the way I act, and the way I deal with success or failure. It is very powerful and meanwhile very simple. Everything we have in our lives at the moment is determined by the formula of existence, whether you realize that or not. So, formula of existence is very simple: being, doing, and having. So everything we have in our life is because we act in a certain way. And anything we do in our actions is determined by the way we think. So we have something because we act or do something. And we do because we think that way. We think that way because we actually are what we are thinking. So that's some kind of concept that I really truly believe and that changed my life. So if you don't like what you have in your life, then start changing the way you think. If you have less, think more. If you are not enough, big enough, start thinking different ways, start thinking in these categories. So once I realized that, I started to change my life. And this is why, following this formula of existence, today I will give you 3 pieces of advice. The first one, be yourself. The second one, do the right things. And the third one, keep the balance. So let's explore these 3 advices. The first one, be yourself by knowing who you are. And there is a story from my past. When I was a kid, my dream was to become a lawyer. I had that dream from the 7th grade. I remember how I met this powerful attorney in my city where I was living, and I was so inspired by him, by how he talked, by how other people showed him respect, and I wanted to become a lawyer. But then, finishing 12th grade, I was really determined to get in Latvian university and become a lawyer. I spent all summer to go to the classes to Riga. I was living in Liepāja, and I was preparing myself for exams. But in the meanwhile, I got an offer from a businessman who offered me to run his training center and become a director of the training center. And my mom was giving me some money for the tickets to get to Riga. And you know what I did? I finally, after all summer preparing myself, I didn't go there. I just bought for that money a pack of cigarettes, and decided to stay with the businessman who offered me the director position in the training center. And you know, I really, I betrayed myself, and it took me years to deal with that, decision that I became someone else that I wasn't. You know, I started to pursue someone else's dreams instead of mine. And that's what I want to say, that it is very important to know who you are and what you really want to be. And there was a trick, what I learned, how to always stay in that focus, how always see who I am truly. And I was in Greece, taking some vacations off, and there was a book. I read a book called Conversation with God. It is a bestseller written by a homeless guy who was totally broke in his life, and suddenly he started conversation with God, and just wrote it down. It was published in 1996. And I don't agree with everything that is written in that book, but I definitely took one very important lesson from there that helps me stay focused all the time and stay myself. And the lesson was that anytime you don't know what to do, just close your eyes and imagine the best version of yourself. Imagine the best idea of yourself. And you know, then it hits me. Then I started to think, hey, who I want to be, who I want to work with, what kind of man I want to be, what kind of father or husband I want to be. And that's the focus you can always stick with, asking this one question: what is the best idea about myself? And when I started to use that concept, I realized that, hey, well, this is not what I want to do. This is not where I want to go. Especially if you have like investors on board, I believe that every single of us knows what is right and what is wrong. And sometimes people will try to push you in the way that you feel is not yours. And the worst thing you can do is you can betray yourself. So keep this idea about yourself in place and don't let anyone, push you from that way. Another concept that I discovered was components of living. And there are 4 components that I found really grateful and explaining where I should focus to understand what is good, what's right. And these components are purpose, obstacles, freedoms, and freedom of choice. So in order to live your lives, in order to be successful, you need to follow these four components. And first component, purpose or goals. If you don't have goals, you don't know where you're going. So close your eyes, imagine your best idea about yourself, and formulate that goal. Formulate the best idea where you want to be in whatever, in 2 or 5 years or 10 years. Have this vision. Maybe you will not have a plan, but you will have the vision, and that goal will always pull you closer to that. Other thing is that you always will have obstacles, and there's no way that you will not have them, because that's how the universe works. And we can really fall, and I believe that man is not judged by how many times he fall, but how many times he stand up. So be ready to fall, be ready to be on your knees, and be ready to get up, whatever it takes. Be ready to give your 100% to overcome these obstacles. And the third thing is how to be free. I mean, how to get this freedom. And at that aspect, I once found the sentence that also made a big impact in my life, and that sentence is: people who surround you makes you or destroys you. So once I realized that, people who surrounds me, they help me become better, or they are just pulling me back, like they're anchors. And truly speaking, there was even a client who I just refused to collaborate with. I said, no, I don't want you to be my client anymore, because I felt that he's just dragging me down. And if you have the feeling that whatever, your friends, colleagues, or people who surround you drags you down, just get rid of them. Or just limit the contact with them. So it is very important to be free. And the way to be free in your life is to surround you with the people who support you, the people who you feel that they are making you better. And the last thing is how to choose actions that are in your best interest. So you always need to make choices. So that ability to be able to make decisions in your life, to be able to choose freedom and have this freedom of choice, that is from one side it is the greatest thing we have, but from other side it can be very tricky, because you can be sometimes you wanna do things that are not in your best interests. And ability to focus and to choose the actions that are in your best interests, that's also a very important thing to do. And again, my way of getting back that focus is all the time ask myself, what is the best idea about myself? Is these actions, or are these actions helping me to become a person that I have this ideal ideal picture in mind? So these are 4 components. Then there's being, doing, having, right? So if we are something, so we have this dream, we have these ideas, in the next phase we need to act. If you just have these dreams in your mind, nothing will happen. Many people have dreams. Many people, think of, well, I want to do this, I want to do that. But very less people, they actually are ready to do something about that. There are actually very less people ready to pay for their dreams. So be always ready to pay for your dreams and do whatever it takes. And there is one more formula I discovered, how I determine what are the right things to do. And this formula is formula of trust. So without trust, it is impossible to have clients. Without trust, it is impossible to have team or to have investors on board. So you need to know how to maintain trust to yourself. And there are 4 components in formula of trust. The first one, integrity. That is the basic thing you need to have. Integrity basically means that what you think and what you say and what you do is the same thing. So basically it means that you are open, you're honest. Of course, it doesn't mean that you need to tell anyone anything, but basically you need to be honest and you need to keep your integrity. The second thing is you need to have this purpose, and purpose that aligns with your clients, the purpose that aligns with your team or with your investors. So if you are honest and you have aligning purpose, everything is fine. That builds trust. And the third thing is competence. Be competent, because you can have these crazy ideas, but if you are not competent pursuing them, no one will trust you. So keep learning, keep developing yourself, and be competent. And the last thing, your formula of trust, you need to show results. If you don't have results, again, you can be the most honest man in the world, you can have very great purpose, and you can be very competent, but if you're not able to show results, no one is going to trust you after a while. So be honest, keep your integrity. Have the purpose that aligns with your clients, with your investors, with your team. Be competent and show results. That's the basic formula of trust. That's how you will always know what is right and what is wrong, where you need to focus your attention to develop yourself and to move forward. So, and the final thing is keep your balance. Well, once you are someone, then you do something, and then you get some results. Or basically, you being this, doing this, and having this. And it is also important to understand how to maintain having this, what to do when you are successful, where to focus your attention, how to balance everything with that. And I was very surprised when I found out also one interesting formula. And it is, there are three components that any soul that comes to this earth and takes body and lives the life that any one of us actually wants from the life. Basically, everything we do, we can put in one of three categories. So the first category is joy. What we want to have joy, we want to enjoy life, we want to have these fantastic experiences that brings joy in our life. The second, we want to have victories. We want to have victories. And remember, in order to have victories, we need to be able to overcome obstacles. And if you are the person who understands that there is not only joy in the life, but there are also victories, and that we are enjoying the life after overcoming obstacles and getting these victories, then you will be very successful. You will know how to maintain the balance. And the third thing is recognition. Don't be ashamed to show your success to other people. There's nothing wrong with sharing your success and sharing the good example, good experiences. And this is something that truly wants every single person. So joy, victories, and recognition, that other people recognize your victories, and don't be ashamed to share these things with people. And the last thing I want to share with you today is formula of exchange. So to understand how the universe works, formula of exchange is one of the basic things. And it works in that way that there are basically four stages of exchange. The lowest level of exchange is called criminal exchange. So let's say you paid money for something, but you didn't receive what you were expecting to receive. So that is criminal exchange. You gave something away, but you didn't get what you expected. A little bit higher, we have unfair exchange. Let's say you ordered something, whatever, you ordered to clean your car, and then you are coming to the car wash center, and car is cleaned, but not so well. So you paid for the service, but you didn't receive what you expected. And that's unfair exchange. Then we have this balanced exchange. So when you are receiving what you are expecting, and you are exchanging things that both parties expect. And then there is exchange with additional value. You pay the money, but you got something more. And how it works? The young girl, the young boy, they start dating. And what happens in the level of exchange, they exchange between each other with the good things, so much that these accounts of relationships, they grow. And then someday they just start, they just don't do that anymore. And once that happens, you basically are taking out from that bank account of trust, from the bank account of relationships. And don't forget to keep exchange all the time in order. I've seen that people and also companies, once they get some success, they forgot what was the real reason of that success. And sometimes companies go bankrupt because they change the basics of what they were delivering to the clients, and then they start getting out from the business. Don't get out from the business. Keep that exchange in place and pay attention on the things that made your success happen. So this is the concept that I'm following in my life. Well, you have this beingness, then you have this doingness and havingness. Being, doing, having. So I am someone, I'm doing something, and then we get some results. I hope that these explanations helped you to understand a little bit more this formula of existence, and that you can use it in your lives. The last thing I will say before we finish is that first time it is hard because you don't have this experience. It is hard because there are certain things you just don't know. You don't know how it will turn out. But if you have this idea about yourself, the best idea about yourself that you can possibly imagine, and you're ready to give 110% every day. I'm working 6 days a week, from 10 to 14 hours sometimes, having only one holiday a Saturday. But that's what it takes. If you have a dream, you should be ready to pay for that dream. And, well, nothing else matters. Nothing matters what other people think of you. The most important thing is what you think of you. And if you think of you the right things and you are happy with who you are, then success is coming. There is no other way. So thank you very much. I hope these things helps you, and thank you for having me. And I wish you a great success. Thanks.
Hello, one more time. So thank you very much. One more awesome speech is done for today. And I want to thank you and thank you in the word of my colleagues for your attendance today, because I believe it was not that easy because of this extreme heat wave we have today in Latvia and in the following days. And your content was more than educational. It was also inspirational. And I even wrote down this expression of yours. The most important is what you think of you. Thank you very much. I will keep it in mind.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. So I want to also thank everybody who stayed with us till the end, and see you during our following events. Thank you.